Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Newsroom. I'm your host, Khalid. Today is Monday, the 12th of February 2024. Elections have just passed through, and this is what's going to be our first story today. What's going to be the post-election scenario? How are the different political parties, discussing different coalition options between each other? And what is going to be the day when the president is going to summon all the members of the parliament who've been elected, and how are things going to move ahead? We also have the Senate elections that are going to come in a few weeks' time. So what is the political atmosphere of Pakistan going to become in the weeks to come? This is going to be our first story. The next steps in forming the government in the federal and in the different provinces, because of course the Election Commission of Pakistan has announced all the results, but we've also got the leaders of two political parties who've announced their resignations from their political parties because of the response that they received from the voters during these elections. This and more is going to be discussed in our first story. Our second story, ladies and gentlemen, concerns day 129 of the Israel and Palestine conflict that has been going on between the two. And of course, we all know what is happening in Rafah as we speak. There have been aerial attacks that have happened in Rafah, and we all know that most of the Palestinians now are concentrated in this small area that we call Rafah, that is near the border with Egypt. This said, a lot of pressure is also on the United Nations, a lot of pressure is also on important countries that need to do the needful before things go south. They have already gone south, before things go to a point where which could be a point of no return. The number of casualties, of course, is increasing with every passing day, and we have around 28,300 Palestinians who have been killed brutally by the Israelis as we speak. Will there be any truce between the two sides? Will Israel agree to any form of truce? Because as Netanyahu says and wants, there doesn't seem to be any trace of truce or ceasefire in his mind. This is going to be our second story. Then we are going to talk about the Republicans who have criticized Donald Trump's statement to quit NATO. Now, some of former President Donald Trump's fellow Republicans have lashed out at him. They have said, why would he take out a statement like that we should move out of NATO? Trump had complained about what he called delinquent payments by some NATO countries and recounted what he said was a past conversation with the head of a big country about an attack by Russia on such countries. We all know the mindset of Mr. Donald Trump. So if he does become the next president of the United States of America, there seems to be a huge change that is coming as far as the US politics is concerned. Then we are going to talk about the Chinese Lunar Year celebrations, ladies and gentlemen. These were held some time back, but the celebrations continue in China and all across the globe, whether it be the Pakistanis and the huge Pakistan diaspora that is present in China also, that has joined in the celebrations of this Chinese Lunar Year. And this Lunar Year is that of the dragon. Every year, the Chinese Lunar Year denotes its year to one certain animal, whether it be the dog, whether it be the dragon, whether it be any other symbol. And this year, this is the year of the dragon, considered to be the most auspicious of the 12 that make up the Chinese zodiac. We will show you some visuals of that during this segment. Let's begin with our first segment, and that concerns the politics in Pakistan. Now that the elections are over, now the Election Commission of Pakistan has announced the results as far as the Federation and the provinces are concerned. The election of the Speaker and Prime Minister is also going to happen in the next few weeks. How is the different coalition or the different meetings happening between the different political parties in order to make some kind of a coalition for it to gain a simple majority in the National Assembly? We've been joined by Lubna Jerar Naqvi. She's a senior analyst, joins us from Karachi. Lubna, thank you very much to have joined us. What, in your point of view, are the post-election challenges that lie ahead for these newly elected members of the provincial as well as the national assemblies? And what are you seeing as far as the different meetings that are going on between the political parties? Are you hopeful for some kind of a coalition to be formed, or is there some other solution that you see coming forward as far as the National Assembly is concerned?
Thank you so much, Khalid. Of course, there are certain experts that could to tell you the exact pattern that could be put in or the formula, but at this point, it's a very interesting place to be in politics. But for, I think, if the politicians actually want to do something for the country, they really need to get a quick fix and make some kind of a government that has to be in place in less than 3 weeks now. I think 29th February should be the time when our first session should be in session, the National Assembly. So they really don't have a lot of time, and I don't understand why they did not understand that nobody's going to get well. That would be a very naive thing for me to say, but if what we could see was that nobody would be getting a clear majority, and they should have had a plan B. As I keep saying, we need to keep planning and have plan Bs and Cs for us, because in our political history we see that nothing goes according to plan, and politics is a game for, it could go anyway. And we are seeing a lot of negotiations and discussions among the political parties, and even MKM has come into Pakistan has come into the in the running, and let's see. They're talking. The PMLM is talking to MKM as well, and PPP, of course, is a very strong candidate as well. So hopefully, whatever the coalition is, we're hoping that the independents that were supported by one party, they also are mirroring the voters, let's say, desires. Let's see. Hopefully, the main parties, the main characters in this political drama will actually pull things together. Otherwise, there's going to be delays, and there's going to be a lot of complications. And I think it's time to sit down and actually put a deadline there and say within a week or 5 days, we need to get this into place so that by 29th February, 1st March, we need to have our National Assembly in session.
Lubna, Jerar, can we afford any more delays? We have, we are going towards the continuity of a certain political process, democratic process. That was the need of the hour for a country like Pakistan. All eyes are on us. You also talk about, reconciliation. How important is an environment of reconciliation between different political parties in order to form some kind of coalition for a country like Pakistan to be politically stabilized, for important decisions to be taken, whether it comes to economy, whether it comes to politics, whether it be international relations?
I think we really should have really thought about this. As when I say us, I mean the political parties. As a Pakistani, I want these parties to actually come and come together and get things started. We need reconciliations. We need somebody to actually sit them down and actually make themselves understand that this is a very, very crucial point, and this is where we need to make a change. I think at this point where our political parties were promising us the moon, the sky, and everything, this is the time to prove themselves. They should be giving Pakistan and Pakistanis a priority and putting everything else on the back burner. I know it's very difficult for all the political parties to think like a common Pakistani, because they, of course, are thinking on a different level. But from my point of view, where I'm standing as a layperson, as a Pakistani, I really need this government and the political parties to actually come together, make a workable coalition, get things rolling. The whole world's looking at us, and with our situation, we need to start mending our economy. We need to start mending democracy. We actually need to move forward. We see this every time in our after every elections. There's a lot of negotiations, there's a lot of discussions, but I don't think we have time for that. We've been kind of in some kind of a limbo for the past maybe a year and a half, and I don't think this is the time to sit and actually, you need to really actually move forward. No time to think. And I would hope that our seasoned politicians would understand, and I'm sure they do understand that, and get this process going. And I see that even now, as we were speaking, there's a PPs coming into the capital. They're going to sit there and talk, and they're going to discuss. And I hope our seasoned politicians do understand that Pakistanis are actually really, this election is their hope, and they shouldn't be, disappointing us at this point. I'm being
Lubna
very
Jerar,
passionate, I'm sorry.
I totally agree with you. Lubna Jerar, when it comes to political options, we are hearing so many options that are available to the political parties, whether it be to People's Party, to A, join hands with the PMLN to form a coalition government, to B, to support the PMLN, to be the main party in the National Assembly, but then sit in the opposition. C, there's also talks of who will be the Prime Minister, who won't be the Prime Minister, who will be the Chief Minister of the provinces, who won't be the Chief Minister, who will be the Governor, and there is a lot of, talks or maneuvering going on as far as this is concerned. But of course, the need of the hour is that all these solutions be adhered to in a certain time frame. As you yourself said, 29th is the date, the last date before which session of the National Assembly is going to be convened by the President of Pakistan. What are the options that you feel could be the most feasible, or should we move ahead and talk about other issues?
Well, they only have a couple of weeks now, a little more than a couple of weeks, and they don't have much time. So there's no point in them sitting there and trying to restart the whole process. They need to actually work on their experience. Like PPP has and PMLN has the Charter of Democracy at their credit. They can revisit that, maybe improve on that, and work on what they have and get things done and get them moving. As I keep repeating myself, but that's the only thing I want to see. I want to see things, make some promises and make those promises real, because 29th is just around the corner. And if you can't, sit down and actually, quickly decide who is the best person for the job. It needs to be made immediately. They should have come in with that in their minds. Politicians should. I'm not the one to tell them that, but they should be thinking that this is not a very, we don't have the leisure. We need to think on a crucial and keep on our toes and really get this done.
And we need to think of Pakistan before everything else. I think we need to think of our nation, of the future of our nation, or the future of our people, whether it be in a geopolitical sense, in a geostrategic sense, or a geoeconomic sense. Lubna, you talked about the Charter of Democracy. How important is it to move towards a newly adapted Charter of Democracy or a Charter of Economy? Because I think both are extremely important for Pakistan under the current circumstances.
Well, I think the Charter of Economy is more or less the same, because the situation has not really changed that much. We have improved in some areas, and we need still to work on some. But the Charter of Democracy is based on the basis of democracy, and that's something that our seasoned politicians are working for. That's what they claim, and they don't need to actually add anything to it except for tweaking it for the situation and trying to get it into workable for everyone. They need to get everybody on board and quickly. They have to do this, as I keep saying, very quickly, and they can use that charter. It's both the main political parties that have been in the mix, and they should make the other parties understand, and even in the independents. At this point, I know there are so many political the voters are very, very sad about certain things, but at this point, Pakistan is the foremost thing that we should be thinking about. Democracy is, of course, important, but you need a country to have democracy. So Pakistan is the foremost thing that they should all be thinking about.
What should be the criteria, in your point of view, of a working relationship that should be developed between all the parties, political parties concerned, that have now emerged as winners in these elections?
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that.
Yes, I said, what should be the criteria of a working relationship between all the political parties or the independents who have emerged victorious as a result of these elections?
Well, I think they should, first of all, they should take steps to protect democracy, make it more, strengthen it, and make the new voter, the first time voters, understand that democracy is the basis of our country. Secondly, economy is the most important thing that we need to look at. We have, every year, we have millions of youth coming out. They're going to vote every year. We need to give them hope to stay in our country. We need them to understand that somebody is actually trying to patch up things and make the economy workable and trying to put it on its legs. That's what we need right now. And I'm sure we have a lot of plans for that, but we need them to be put in place. We should have had long-term and short-term plans, so which our economy needs, because there are certain things that can be fixed, maybe for temporary use, and that's something that we have to keep thinking about. And I think the political parties should be focusing on economy the most. I think that's the most important thing that the government should be thinking about.
Now, Lubna, speaking of economy, how important is for a country like Pakistan or the upcoming leadership of Pakistan to look at its relationship with the IMF and continue with a robust relationship with that and other lending organizations for Pakistan's economy to survive and to thrive in the coming years?
Well, that's very important question. I think we have to, for now, rely on the IMF and other organizations. I'm not an economy expert, but what I see that there are no other ways to get out of this. We have tried and we have failed, and unfortunately, it could be because we didn't have experience, or maybe our plans weren't put up properly, or they weren't executed properly. I think we need to keep a workable relationship. Most of these organizations, the economy really needs to be strengthened, and I think at this point, if you're looking at your country like your own part of your life and like a mother, everybody thinks their country is their mother. I think we would go out to do anything to save the country, and I wouldn't hesitate if I was in their shoes, of course, to do anything to save my country. I'm being a little more patriotic because you get emotional at the age we are now. We've been waiting for a change for a long time, and hopefully we will see it soon. It'll take time, and that's one thing I keep thinking, that politicians should take the people into their confidence. Be honest. Just be honest about your plans. Tell them the time frame that is going to help and it's going to work in. Tell the youth there's hope. They will be there. They will support anybody who talks to them honestly and give them the real picture. I think Pakistan really needs to be honest with the people. The government needs to be quite honest with them.
All right. Now, speaking of members of the National Assembly and the Provincial Assembly, we all know that 8 independent candidates have joined PMLN. We all know that there are a certain lucrative number of independent MNAs and MPAs that are currently present. And there's a lot of political wrangling going on as to which side they'll go on, whether they will, continue with their allegiances or whether they will, take on new allegiances, because they have all the constitutional right to do so within 3 days of the official results being announced as per the Section 98 of Elections Act 2017. How do you see these allegiances happening? Do you see some changes happening as far as the allegiances of the independent MNAs with political parties is concerned, and also of the provincial members to share as to which party they are going to conform to in the next couple of days, because they have a very small window once the official results are announced?
I think the independents need to take a side now, because since you say there's a very limited time for them to do that, they have to add to they have to give their own contribution to the move forward, facing democracy. Right now I was just watching some of the parties are saying that they will not want to join any party. They'd rather give their seats away to the majority party of that province. I don't think this is the time to bicker, and which would be an understatement, of course, if I was running for elections and I was one of the candidates. But as a Pakistani, I really need solutions. I want them to patch up. They need to think about which way they should go. I know the independents, there are a lot of protests that's going on around the country. That has not worked so far. So I don't think this should be made more difficult than it is already right now. If they would take my advice of I'm not an expert on this either, but I think the common sense that I see is they should be looking for a way out, getting the things together as quickly as possible. Because after 3 days, when the time elapses, they're just going to be wasting precious time to put our economy and get the government into place. So I would suggest, as a Pakistani, please move forward faster for the better.
And think of Pakistan first, before you think of yourselves. That should be on the mind of every single member of the National Assembly or Provincial Assembly for the next 5 or even 10 years, I would say. Lubna, final question. The 5-year term of half of the members of the Senate is going to be over next month. Election for about 50 vacant seats is going to take place, followed by election of the chairperson and deputy chairperson of the Senate. This will also allow, the political parties to accommodate themselves for future alliances. What kind of political temperature do you see, or do you feel this current political temperature that is present in Pakistan's political arena, is that going to continue till the Senate elections are also held and their results are announced?
Well, if things go as planned, and a lot of people are appeased during this time. Hopefully, the Senate elections might not be that, they might be more cooler, but this is Pakistan, and we're passionate people, so I wouldn't say that. There'll be still a little more, heated debate and a little passion there. But hopefully, at the end, as I keep saying, and I'm repeating myself, Pakistan comes first. And hopefully, of course, the parties will try to get their people there, and because they want more people in the more voices there. But again, as we keep saying, Pakistan comes first, and it's time that we really, put Pakistan first instead. We need to work together. Senators play a big role in making the government, making laws. I know they're from particular parties and their voices from there, but at the end of the day, please think for Pakistan.
And I think that is where we should end our conversation. We should always think of Pakistan. Pakistan should always be first on our minds, whether we are citizens or whether we are members of national or provincial assemblies. That is how our country will move forward and strengthen itself. Thank you very much, Lubna, Jerar, Naqvi, senior analyst from Karachi, joining us, and of course discussing Pakistan's current political temperature and how things are moving along. Let's come to our second story, and that concerns Israel and what it is doing in Gaza, what it is doing in the West Bank. This is day 129. Rafah has been bombarded as the Israel also plans ground assault on Rafah. This is something also that has been denied, not denied, but negated by a lot of countries that do not want this to happen. A lot of countries are saying this, that Israel should not resort to this. But looking at the recent statements by Netanyahu, it seems things are moving in the same direction. We have Palestinian journalist Haneen Harara from the Rafah city to report on the ongoing situation there. Thank you very much, Haneen, to have joined us. What are the difficulties that the Palestinians are facing in the city, amidst all this continuous Israeli bombing that is happening?
Well, it's 129 days of ongoing appalling atrocities, genocide, ethnic cleansing and massacres against 2.3 million people across the Gaza Strip. I'm talking to you here from the southern part of the Gaza Strip, Rafah city. The area was supposed to be safe zone and designated to be safe one for the people who are forced to displace from their homes. Several areas from the Gaza Strip are directed here. We talk about 1.5 million people resides here with this area with 55 square kilometers. That means each square meters has 27,027 persons, and it's gonna be huge massacres if any attacks by land and sea target those civilians here. So it's not even about the direct attacks here. We talk about the disease around that could be deadlier than the airstrikes, and it is even hard conditions the people are living through and going through. We talk about tents, just only tents, and even people have no shelters and reside in streets. We witness 180 pregnant women are getting birth per day. So it is even miserable conditions that those mothers and sisters are forced to deal with these conditions and circumstances, with huge limitation of the medical supplies. I'm here in front of Al-Kuwaiti Hospital, which is functioning as an emergency unit in the light of huge limitation of the medical supplies. We talk about just 100 trucks enter the Gaza Strip per day instead of 600 trucks that we used to get in the normal days before October 7th. So this is abnormal situation that all of us are witnessing. The humanitarian situation is getting worse day by day. The last night was terrifying one, as it's unprecedented before in the Rafah city. We lost 42 of casualties by the several airstrikes that bombed 30 homes and even 3 mosques in the Rafah city, several areas. So the people are even terrifying what's going on next, and even they believe that the worst not even come to yet. So even they are terrifying of the invasion land by the Israeli forces that will be even negotiation about and could be entered the Gaza Strip, southern part of the Gaza Strip. So we are here terrifying and even wondering of the next step, and all of us are calling for permanent ceasefire to stop these massacres and against those civilians.
Thank you so very much, Haneen, Harara, to have joined us all the way from Rafah. Of course, that is the place, that is the center place where the Israeli bombardments are happening. 67 people have been killed in the Israeli air and sea attacks on Rafah early on Monday, and that has been confirmed by the Palestinian Ministry of Health in Gaza. The Israeli army says it has rescued 2 captives from a house in Rafah's Shabura neighborhood. Overnight, Israeli snipers have also killed 7 people inside of Nasser Hospital in the southern city of Khan Yunis. This has been confirmed by the spokesperson of Gaza's health ministry. Israeli forces have also planned ground offensive on Gaza, and this has a lot of gaining a lot of concern from the world, from important countries that are saying that Rafah that they could blow up the captive exchange negotiations, and any future for some kind of a peaceful negotiated process could be thwarted if there is a ground offensive that happens in Rafah. If you look at the casualties in Gaza till today, they are around 28,340, 67,984 plus have been wounded since the 7th of October. 129 days have passed since Israel began its offensive on the hapless Palestinians. And just look at the way it has been bombarding, the way it has been doing ground offensive, the way it has been negating all or any regard for human life or humanity, whether it be the hospitals, whether it be the educational institutions, whether it be the mosques, whether it be the people themselves. There is extreme disregard for any form of humanity by the Israelis, and we have seen that in the form of the different hospitals that have been destroyed, the medical facilities that are not being given the light, the path to arrive to the people. And that is what Haneen was also saying. 600 trucks need to come every day with aid and with medical supplies for the people. What is coming is around 100, and that too is being attacked by the Israeli settlers so that they do not enter Gaza, so they do not enter the different places where the Palestinians are housed in camps. In fact, most of them are cramped up in Rafah. We've been joined by Zahir Shah Sherazi. He's a senior analyst. Zahir Shah Sherazi, thank you very much to have joined us. At least 67 Palestinians, Zahir, and you know that, have been killed in Israeli air and sea attacks on Rafah early today. What happens now? What are you foreseeing? More such strikes? Do you feel that the ground offensive is going to happen?
Well, I think it's pre-planned, and what we had been witnessing for the last so many months. Perhaps this was planned and this had to be executed, because this genocide, which most of the international community has been keeping a mum, so it's really worrisome that openly the non-combatant are being killed by the Israeli bombardment. But now, I think so they are going to flush out, they are going to, enter, and most of those Palestinian areas in Gaza and Rafah, I would foresee that there is a huge human disaster coming ahead, because the international community as well as the Western powers, they are totally having a criminal silence over the killing of innocent Palestinians who are mostly non-combatant. And I think when there is a foot soldiers enter in this Rafah, there would be fight, at least from the Hamas fighters as well as some of the resistors there. But I don't believe that the non-combatants, mostly the civilian, children, women, they would be, again the target of the Israeli occupation forces. So what we are going to see, perhaps if the ground troops enter, they are well equipped, they have modern gadgets, and they are likely to carry out this assault on innocent and non-combatant Palestinians who don't have even, they just have stones to fight the occupation forces. Obviously, the international community as well as the UN system, perhaps it has failed to stop this genocide of the innocent people inside Gaza and Rafah and almost all the occupied territory of Palestine.
All right, Zahir, Sherazi, you talk of different important countries that are, in your point of view, silent. I'd like to refer to Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs that has released a statement saying it is deeply concerned about reports of an Israeli military operation in Rafah. Then we've got Australian Senator David Shoebridge, who has also decried the bombardment of Rafah and questioned the timing of it all. He says our hearts are with the Palestinian people now more than ever. Are these reactions going to have some kind of impact on the future of a deal, a truce between Palestine and Israel? Or do you feel Israel is going to go as it has planned since the very beginning, despite what the international body is saying?
Well, there is a criminal silence. I think some of the Western countries like Ireland as well as Japan, and they have shown their concern. Their parliaments have taken up the resolutions even condemning Israelis' occupation as well as this human catastrophe which is going on in the occupied Palestinian territory. But I think simply showing concern would not be enough. As we have seen, the United States, the Britain, as well as almost all the UN Security Council members, the 5 permanent members, they had not been, to the mark to stop this genocide. And I don't think so that such condemnation by the Japanese government as well as from the UN would be stopping the Israelis from what they are planning to do. Perhaps I think this is a criminal negligence, silence of the international community. It exposes the biased UN system, which is just a puppet in the hands of those powers who are trying to carry out targeted attacks in some parts of the world. Because if it would have been in any Western countries, I don't think so this could have been prolonged for so much. But we had been watching first, the Gaza Strip was targeted, now Rafah, and perhaps the hundreds of Palestinians, they are now left in the open. They are dying. The hospitals are bombed. The schools are bombed, and all those who had been shifting towards safer places, they are being targeted by the airstrikes as well as by the stepper guns. So perhaps it's a planned genocide of the Palestinian community, and I think the world would repent, history would remember what they had done with the innocent, unarmed combatants in this part of the world.
All right, Zahir Sherazi, I'd like to refer to 2 important developments that have happened. A, the telephonic conversation between Joe Biden and Netanyahu. B, Biden saying Israel's actions in Gaza since October 10 have been over the top. C, him also urging Netanyahu to ensure the safety of civilians on the ground assault on Rafah. D, Jordan's King Abdullah II, who is going to reach Washington anytime today, because it is on Monday he was supposed to reach Washington. The visit comes also after a recent video of Jordan state-owned media showing the king personally helping airdrop medical supplies over Gaza. You talked about other countries. I mean, I see Jordan helping. I see a lot of concerns from Qatar as well, who have tried to mediate between Israel and Palestine. What could be the outcome of these two, and how important is, in your point of view, the role of the United States of America right now?
Well, you have seen the U.S. Secretary of State's visit to Qatar, what he was saying. So I think verily going for some lip service and condemning the attacks, it would not be sufficient enough. And Joe Biden's call to Netanyahu perhaps to take care of the civilians, and the civilians should not be targeted. I think the entire Palestinian territory is now a war zone. They had converted all the entire Gaza Strip as well as other Palestinian areas into a war zone. They are fighting the civilians. There are no combatants. How many they might have been killed? The second thing, I think this effort for the ceasefire should have been started much earlier. But now, for the last so many months, we had seen more than 30,000, about 28,000 plus people killed, more than 70,000 injured. And now there is every household which had totally been destroyed. Now with this entire Palestinian territory is destroyed, and Israeli troops enter, they bulldoze the residential areas, they are bulldozing the hospitals, they have destroyed the schools, there is no water system. So what is left? So for what they are going to have a truce? Whether they are likely to rebuild the rubble for so many, like for the next 3-4 decades. It's very very important. I think the international community, perhaps the UN system, has totally failed to secure and protect the lives of innocent civilians. And perhaps the only statement which is coming from some of the countries that Israel should take care of not targeting the civilians, but they are only targeting the civilians. This is ridiculous. I don't think so. Perhaps such like cosmetic measures would be protecting the innocent civilians in Palestine.
Well, Zahir, Sherazi, not only are they targeting civilians, they are also targeting the human rights organizations that had provided the Israeli forces with their GPS coordinates. And despite that, they were bombarded and they have been killed. The number of United Nations officials who have been killed in this atrocity that is happening since the 7th of October is also unmatched in the last few years or decades, may I say the least. I'd like to understand something. What happens now to this two-state solution? I would like to refer to what the UAE envoy to the UN, Lana Zaki Nusseibeh, says, that she says her country wants to see Israel's full integration into the region as part of a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine. She says, and I quote, "We cannot keep managing the conflict, we have to resolve it," which means two states. There must be an irreversible progression towards a two-state solution, she adds. Do you see that happening?
Well, actually, what you have seen since 1967, what they have done, they have occupied some other resident country, and this is the Zionist lobby's plan to take over the entire Palestinian territory. And perhaps they are not going to stop here. And those who are in this illusion that perhaps this two-country status would be resolving the conflict, I don't think so. Because the Israeli occupation forces, they are out on expansion. And perhaps Jordan, Egypt, as well as Syria, they are likely to suffer. As we have seen, the occupation forces, they had been expanding their territory. And this is the recent onslaught on the Palestinian territory. Perhaps this is part of the Israeli expansionist design. And this is not for purpose. Earlier you were asking that perhaps the world is condemning or not. But we have seen the Jewish community, they are condemning the Zionist plans. And Netanyahu, perhaps, he is the most disliked human being on earth now for openly killing such people. Even the Jewish community in the United States, in Britain, and all the Western countries, they are condemning what Netanyahu and his Zionist plans are being persecuted. But actually, what we are sensing now, even if the two-state theory is implemented, which I don't think so, it is likely to happen, because Israelis just wanted to take over everything. They just wanted to, throw out the Palestinians from their own country. So this is, by all means, by international laws, a violation of not only the human rights, but even the UN Security Council as well as the UN resolutions. So obviously, now the international community as well as the UN must have to, put a bargain on the Israelis. They must be, boycotting the Israelis, how much they had been resorting to the killing of the innocent civilians. So I think this is the important thing.
Speaking of some kind of a truce or a deal between Israel and Palestine, I'll go and understand something, Zahir Sherazi. Palestine has laid out a detailed three-phase plan which talks about an exchange of prisoners. We know there are about 8,000 Palestinian prisoners languishing in Israeli jails, many of who are even there without any, condemnation whatsoever. But Netanyahu appears to have rejected the Palestinian plan. He says that Israel will continue its military assault on Gaza till absolute victory. If that is the intention of Netanyahu, because you were referring to him, if that is the intention of Israel, then what happens for the future of any deal whatsoever, whether it be an exchange of prisoners or a ceasefire or a truce? What do you foresee?
Well, actually, I think none of the sane people would justify the killing of civilians, even if they are from any part of or any community, if they are Muslims or Jews or the Christians. But actually, this conflict has left even the Christians, the Jews, as well as the Muslims dead. It's not just the Palestinians being the Palestinian nationals, they are on the, hit by this Israeli troops. And what Netanyahu is saying, perhaps again I would say, he is not interested even to, go into any kind of peace deal, because the international community has been arguing, they are putting various suggestions, but still the Israeli occupation forces' only intention this time is to crush the Palestinians. They wanted to throw them out of their own territory and perhaps take over the Gaza and other areas where the Palestinians had been living. So I think the designs are very clear. They just wanted to bulldoze, bomb and destroy the entire Palestinian territory. They wanted to throw out those who are left. Many hundreds of thousands are killed, and many more are likely to be killed because they are lying under the open sky. The buildings are bombed, the streets are bombed, the hospitals are bombed. So where they are going to run? So this is an important issue, that they just wanted them to be thrown out into Syria or Egypt or Jordan, and obviously they wanted to control the territory. The innocent and unarmed Palestinians don't have any such kind of, huge weapons. They don't have jet fighters. They don't have tanks to fight the occupation forces. The only thing what they can do is a hit and run kind of attacks against the Israeli forces, which would not be harming them much, because the Israelis are the most equipped army of the world. The United States is backing it. The Western community is backing it. The UN is silent. So obviously, where they are going to, end up. So I think indirectly, the international community as well as the UN's criminal negligence had put the lives of thousands of Palestinians in danger.
All right. Finally, Zahir Sherazi, a Dutch court has ordered the Dutch government to stop the supply of parts for the F-35 fighter jets that are being used by Israel for bombarding Gaza and, of course, Rafah. Do you feel that other countries will follow suit as far as this is concerned? But of course, we know that the US is the biggest arms supplier to Israel, but will other countries follow suit of this Dutch court order?
Well, I think they should. And we should appreciate the Western countries as well as the civilians, not the government. They had been out, they are marching on the streets, they are supporting the Palestinians, and this is a huge gesture. I think that this is totally a humanitarian, genocide. It's not the Muslims or the Jews or the Christians. We have seen people in people in Britain, people in France, people in Canada. They have come out on the roads. You have seen the Irish Parliament, how much openly they are criticized. So this is the only reason to stop the genocide. But if these countries are only condemning, they are issuing only, lip service statements, it would not be helping the Palestinians. And I think this thing should not be stopping here. Tomorrow, perhaps the Israeli expansionists or the Zionist designs, they might try to enter Jordan. They can enter.
I totally agree with you on that. And Zahir Sherazi, I hope that the neighboring countries understand that Jordan is already meeting. The King of Jordan is meeting with the American leadership. Let's hope something concrete comes out of that. Also, let's hope that other countries also join suit to what the Dutch court has done, and also stop the sale of parts that are, contributing to the bombardment of Rafah and other places in Palestine. Thank you very much, Zahir Sherazi, senior analyst, who have joined us, who have talked to us about day 129 of the conflict between Israel and Palestine. Thank you so very much, Haneen, Harara as well, who have joined us all the way from Rafah to give us the updates from the ground. Let's come to our last two stories. The first concerns Donald Trump and how Republicans have blasted him over his threat to abandon NATO allies. Now, this was being said in one of the meeting in one of his statements, and some of the former President Donald Trump's fellow Republicans have lashed out at him. They have said he would not want to protect NATO members from a future attack by Russia if these countries' contributions to the defense alliance were lagging. This and more have been part of the statements by Donald Trump, and some of his statements have been controversial, and under the current geostrategic circumstances that also the US is passing through, it is important that any leader who is now vying for the president's slot in the upcoming US elections weigh his words carefully when it comes to important matters that pertain to the United States of America, in this case NATO. when you have statements that he will not protect NATO countries, and that there has not been enough funding that has been being paid by the NATO countries to the US, these seems more or less I wouldn't say irresponsible, but not responsible statements either. So one needs to really weigh out whatever they say, because a lot is at stake, whether it comes to the US or the world as well. Let's come to our last story, and that concerns the Chinese new lunar year. The new year is that of the dragon, considered to be the most auspicious of the 12 signs that make up the Chinese zodiac. There were huge celebrations, whether it be in China, whether it be in Hong Kong, whether it be other Chinese communities all across the world, but also the Pakistani expatriate community that is present in China. And of course, they have all contributed to the red lanterns, the festive decorations, and these are extremely important. These are events that are extremely important for the Chinese and for China as well. This is the beginning of a new year for them, and every year brings in a new hope of prosperity, a new hope of color, of light, of strength. And that is what China has been showing us and to the world since the last few years. This is the year of the dragon. We wish China and the Chinese all the very best for this new year. A very, very happy new year to all of those who are listening. With that, we come to an end of today's newsroom. We'll see you inshallah tomorrow with new story segments that pertain to us, you in Pakistan. Stay safe. Allah Hafiz.